The transport ship landed with a heavy thud on Station Charybdis. Commander Lyra Vance picked up her single bag and walked down the ramp. The station was old and ugly. Rust covered the walls. The lights flickered every few seconds. This was her new home. 3 months ago, Lyra had been the youngest commander in the Terran fleet. She had medals. She had respect. She had a future. Then came the siege of Kethros IV. The colony was dying. Enemy ships surrounded it. Her superiors ordered a retreat. They said the civilians were already lost. But Lyra saw the transport ships still on the ground. She saw 3,000 people waiting to die. She disobeyed orders. Her small team broke through enemy lines. They held the landing zone for 6 hours. Every single civilian made it onto the transport ships. Every single one survived. Her superiors did not thank her. They called it insubordination. They said she made them look like cowards. So they sent her here, to the place where the coalition put soldiers it wanted to forget. The broken warrior class. A tall alien with gray skin waited for her at the entrance. He had 4 arms, but 3 of them were metal replacements. His name was Lieutenant Thresh. "Commander Vance," he said. "Welcome to Station Charybdis. I must tell you that your predecessor lasted 11 days. What happened to him? He requested transfer. The one before him lost an arm to one of the Vorthi." Lyra had read about the Vorthi in her briefing. They were insect-like creatures, 8 feet tall, with hard shells and arms that ended in blades. They had once been part of a hive mind, millions of them connected to their queens. Then humanity destroyed the queen ships in the war. Now the surviving Vorthi were alone in their heads for the first time. Most of them had gone insane. "Show me my unit," Lyra said. Thresh led her through dark corridors to a large cargo bay. The smell hit her first. Sweat, blood, and something else. Fear. 47 soldiers sat or stood around the room. Some of them looked up when she entered. Most did not. These were the broken ones. The ones whose minds had cracked under the pressure of war. The ones whose neural implants had damaged their brains. The ones nobody else wanted. Sergeant Kowalski stood in the corner, his hands shaking. His file said he could not stop apologizing. A faulty combat program had created a loop in his brain. He said sorry for everything, even things that were not his fault. Private Chen sat alone, staring at nothing. She only spoke in military codes and briefing language. Casual conversation was impossible for her. Something in her head had broken the connection between normal speech and her voice. Lieutenant Mora jumped at every sound. A psychic attack had damaged her ability to sense time. Every moment surprised her. She could not prepare for anything because she could not feel the future coming. And along the far wall, in heavy metal cages, 6 Vorthi waited. They were terrifying. Each one was covered in dark chitin armor. Their compound eyes reflected the light in strange ways. Their blade arms scraped against the cage bars, making a sound like knives on stone. The largest one watched Lyra with special interest. His shell was covered in scars from plasma burns, old wounds from the war. He pressed against his cage, and his mandibles clicked in a rapid pattern. "That one is the most dangerous," Thresh said. "He has killed 2 handlers. We call him Subject 7. Does he have a real name?" Thresh looked confused. "They are Vorthi. They do not have individual names. They were part of a collective. They are not part of a collective anymore." Lyra walked toward the large Vorthi's cage. The soldiers behind her moved back. The Vorthi rose to his full height as she approached. 8 feet of armored killing machine. His blade arms extended to their full length. He could cut her in half with one swing. Lyra stood in front of the cage and looked into his compound eyes. She did not show fear. She did not step back. "Open the cage," she said. "Commander, that is extremely dangerous," Thresh said. "I must strongly advise against this action. He is a soldier. They are all soldiers, and soldiers do not belong in cages." She kept her eyes on the Vorthi. "Open it." Thresh hesitated. Then he pressed the release button. The cage door swung open. The Vorthi stepped out slowly. He towered over Lyra. His mandibles clicked faster. The other soldiers were backing toward the exits. Even the other Vorthi in their cages went silent. The large Vorthi raised one blade arm. Light reflected off its sharp edge. Lyra did not move. For a long moment, Nothing happened. Then the Vorthi lowered his arm. He bent his legs, bringing his head down to her level. His compound eyes studied her face. Click, 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 click. I do not understand you yet, Lara said softly. But I will learn. The Vorthi tilted his head. Something changed in his posture. The aggression faded. What replaced it looked almost like curiosity. Lyra turned to face her soldiers. All of them were staring at her. Even the ones who had not looked up before. My name is Commander Lyra Vance, she said. The Coalition sent us here because they think we are broken. They think we are useless. They put us in this ugly station and hoped we would disappear. She pointed at the cages. Open all of them. Commander. Thresh started. That is an order, Lieutenant. One by one, the cage doors opened. The Vorthi stepped out. They gathered behind the large one, who still stood near Lyra. They watched her with their strange eyes. I do not care what the Coalition thinks, Lyra continued. I see soldiers in this room. Human soldiers who survived things that would destroy anyone else. Vorthi soldiers who lost their entire world and still kept fighting. You are not broken. You are survivors. Sergeant Kowalski's hands were still shaking. But he was listening. Private Chen's eyes had focused on Lyra for the first time. Lieutenant Mora looked startled, but she was looking at Lyra, not at shadows, and the large Vorthi made a sound. A specific pattern of clicks. 5 beats in a rhythm that sounded almost like a heartbeat. The other Vorthi repeated it. Lyra did not know what it meant. Not yet. But she would find out. From this moment, she said, we are a unit. We fight together. We survive together. And we prove to everyone who sent us here that they made a very big mistake. The large Vorthi clicked his 5-beat pattern again. This time, it sounded like agreement. Lyra allowed herself a small smile. This was going to be interesting. Lyra had not slept in 3 days. It was not because she did not want to sleep. Every time she tried to rest, the large Vorthi would stand outside her door and click until she came out. The other officers said he was being aggressive. They said he was trying to establish dominance. Lyra thought they were wrong. She started calling him Scar because of the plasma burns on his shell. He seemed to respond to the name. When she said it, his head would turn toward her. His clicking would change to that 5-beat pattern she still did not understand. On the second day without sleep, Lyra began keeping notes. She wrote down every click pattern Scar made. She noted when he made them and what was happening at the time. Slowly, she began to see patterns. 2 quick clicks meant he was alert. He made this sound when doors opened or when someone entered the room. A long series of rattling clicks meant distress. He made this sound when the other Vorthi were upset, or when the human soldiers screamed in their sleep from nightmares. And the 5-beat pattern. He only made that for her. Dr. Yenny Vasquez was the station psychiatrist. She was one of the few people on Charybdis who was not broken in some way. Her job was to study the damaged soldiers and write reports about them. You are making a mistake, she told Lyra on the 3rd day. The Vorthi do not have individual minds. They were part of a collective consciousness. What you see as personality is just random neural firing. He is not trying to communicate with you. He is just broken. Then why does he treat me differently than everyone else? Predator instinct. He is calculating whether you are a threat. He brought me a dead rat this morning. Dr. Vasquez stopped writing in her notebook. What? A rat. From somewhere in the station's lower levels. He killed it and dropped it at my feet. Then he sat back and watched me. Lyra smiled. That is not threat calculation. That is a gift. The psychiatrist did not have an answer for that. Lyra spent the next 2 days working with her human soldiers. Each of them had different problems, but she began to see something they all shared. They had all been told they were beyond help. They had all been thrown away. Sergeant Kowalski followed her everywhere, apologizing for things he had not done. Sorry for the noise, Commander. Sorry for being in your way. Sorry for existing. Kowalski, Lyra said. You held the defense line at Vertex Prime for 18 hours, alone, while everyone else retreated. Do you remember that? His hands shook. I remember, but I should have done more. I should have saved more people. I am sorry. Stop. Lyra put her hand on his shoulder. You saved everyone you could save. The ones who died are not your fault. You are not responsible for the failures of others. Something flickered in his eyes. The shaking did not stop, but it became a little less violent. Private Chen was harder to reach. She could only speak in military language. Normal words would not come out of her mouth. Private Chen, how are you feeling today? Lyra asked. Status report. Operational capacity at 70%. Morale indicators within acceptable parameters. No immediate threats detected. Chen, I am not asking for a report. I am asking how you feel. Chen's mouth opened and closed. She wanted to say something normal. Lyra could see the struggle on her face. But the words would not come. It is okay, Lyra said. We will find another way. Lieutenant Mora was perhaps the saddest case. The psychic attack had stolen her ability to feel time passing. Every moment was a surprise to her. She could not prepare for anything because she never knew what was coming next. Lieutenant Mora, I am going to touch your shoulder, Lyra said. She touched Mora's shoulder. Mora still jumped, but less than before. We will practice this, Lyra said. Every day. Your brain may not feel time anymore, but we can train it to trust patterns again. On the 5th morning, Lyra gathered everyone in the cargo bay, humans and Vorthi together. The Vorthi had stopped staying in one corner. They now moved freely around the station, though they always stayed close to Scar. The coalition thinks we are garbage, Lyra said. They put humans who are hurt in the same place as aliens they consider monsters. They wanted us to destroy each other. She looked at Scar. He clicked his 5-beat pattern, but we are not going to destroy each other. We are going to become something new, something the galaxy has never seen before. She pointed at the Vorthi. They lost their entire civilization. Their queens are dead. Their hive mind is gone. They are alone in their heads for the first time in their existence, and they did not give up. They are still here, still fighting, still trying to survive. She pointed at her human soldiers. You lost parts of yourselves. Your minds were damaged. Your spirits were crushed. And you did not give up either. You are still here. Lyra walked to the center of the room. Scar moved to stand beside her. The other Vorthi followed him. I do not care what anyone else thinks we are, Lyra said. I know what I see. I see warriors. I see survivors. I see soldiers who understand pain in ways that normal soldiers never will. And that makes us stronger, not weaker. Scar's mandibles moved. A grinding sound came from deep in his throat. Everyone went silent. Kethri, he said. The word was rough and broken. His mouth was not made for human speech, but the word was clear. Lyra stared at him. What did you say? Kethri. He clicked his 5-beat pattern. The other Vorthi began clicking the same pattern. Then they too tried to speak. The word spread through them like a wave. Kethri, Kethri, Kethri. Dr. Vasquez dropped her notebook. That is impossible. They cannot learn speech. Their vocal structures do not allow. They just did. Thresh said quietly. His prosthetic arms hung loose at his sides. Commander, I have worked with many species. I have never seen anything like this. Lyra looked at Scar. What does it mean? Kethri. Scar touched his chest with one blade arm. Then he pointed at Lyra. Then he made a gesture that seemed to include everyone in the room. Leader. Thresh translated slowly. Pack bond. Family. Ours. He looked at Lyra with new respect. He is saying you are his leader. Their leader. He is claiming you as part of his pack. Lyra felt something warm spread through her chest. She had come here expecting to find broken things. Instead, she had found soldiers waiting for someone to believe in them. Then let us be a pack, she said. Let us be a family, and let us show the galaxy what the broken can do when they stand together. Scar clicked his agreement. And for the first time since she arrived on Station Charybdis, Lyra felt like she was exactly where she belonged. The message arrived on the 6th morning. Lyra read it 3 times to make sure she understood. Coalition intelligence had reviewed the situation on Station Charybdis. They had decided that the Vorthi rehabilitation program was a failure. A sterilization team was coming. They would arrive in 19 hours. Sterilization. That was the polite word for it. The real word was execution. Lyra found Thresh in the communication room. His gray face looked even grayer than usual. "You received the orders," he said. "It was not a question. I received them. I am not following them." Thresh nodded slowly. "I expected you would say that. What do you plan to do? Something crazy?" Lyra pulled up a star map on the main screen. "Look at this." The map showed a region of space called the Veth Expanse. It was marked in red. Warning symbols covered every inch of it. "The Veth Expanse is forbidden territory," Thresh said. "Ships that enter do not come back. The gravitational fields tear vessels apart. The debris from dead ships fills every navigation route. And there is something else. The Queen ship wreckage," Lyra said. "I know. When we destroyed the Vorthi Queens, their ships did not just explode. They released psychic energy. That energy still fills the expanse. Any species that enters goes insane within hours. Then why are you showing me this?" Lyra pointed to a blinking dot on the edge of the expanse. "A distress beacon. It activated 2 days ago. A civilian research vessel is trapped inside. 18 crew members. They are already dead," Thresh said. "Or insane. No rescue is possible. No normal rescue is possible." Lyra turned to face him. "But we are not normal," she explained her plan. The Vorthi had evolved in a psychically noisy environment. Their queens had broadcast thoughts across thousands of miles. The death screams of those queens, which drove other species mad, would be nothing more than background noise to the Vorthi. They could navigate the expanse when no one else could. "And the humans?" Thresh asked. "What about us?" "The psychic energy attacks healthy minds. It finds the ordered thoughts and scrambles them." Lyra smiled without humor. "Our minds are already scrambled. There is nothing left to break." Thresh was silent for a long moment. "This is not just crazy, Commander. This is suicidal. Maybe. But if we succeed, we prove that this unit has value. We prove that the Vorthi are assets, not threats. We save 18 lives and give the Coalition a reason to let us exist. And if we fail, then we die doing something that matters instead of being executed like animals." Thresh's prosthetic arms clicked and whirred. Then he straightened to attention. "What are your orders, Commander?" Lyra gathered her unit in the cargo bay 1 hour later. She told them everything. The execution order, the rescue mission, the danger. "I am not ordering anyone to come," she said. "This is voluntary. If you want to stay here and take your chances with the sterilization team, I understand." Kowalski stepped forward first. His hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. "I spent 18 hours alone at Vertex Prime because I believed it mattered. This matters more." Chen stepped up beside him. "Mission parameters accepted. Combat readiness confirmed. Volunteer status. Affirmative." Mora came next, even though her eyes showed fear. "I cannot see the future coming, but I can choose what I do in the present." One by one, every human soldier volunteered. Then Scar stepped forward. He looked at Lyra and clicked his 5-beat pattern. Kethri goes. Pack goes. The shuttle launched at 0900. It was cramped with 12 humans and 6 Vorthi. The air smelled like metal and nervous sweat. No one spoke as they approached the edge of the Veth Expanse. The boundary was invisible, but everyone felt when they crossed it. Mora screamed first. She clutched her head and fell to the floor. The psychic noise was hitting her damaged sense of time, making every moment stretch into eternity. Chen went rigid. Her mouth opened and closed, trying to speak, but only static came out. The structured language in her brain was being torn apart. Kowalski started apologizing. Sorry. I am sorry. For everything, I am sorry." The pain in Lyra's head was incredible. It felt like someone was pouring acid into her thoughts. Memories flashed through her mind in random order. Her childhood. The war. Faces of people she had lost. All of it mixed together in a screaming chaos. Then the Vorthi began to sing. It was not really singing. It was a vibration, deep and low, that came from their entire bodies. Scar stood in the center of the shuttle, his scarred shell resonating like a tuning fork. The other Vorthi joined him, adding their voices to his. The sound pushed back against the psychic static. It created a bubble of calm around them. The screaming in Lyra's head faded to a manageable whisper. "Hold," Scar said, his voice grinding against the chaos. "We hold, packed together." The Vorthi arranged themselves around the humans. Each broken soldier was positioned near a Vorthi protector. The singing continued, never stopping, creating a shield of sound that let them think. They flew deeper into the expanse. The debris was everywhere. Dead ships floated in the void, their hulls torn open. Some of them were human. Most were Vorthi, the remains of the Great War, left to rot in space. Scar made a sound of grief when he saw the Vorthi ships. His singing faltered for a moment. The psychic noise rushed in, and Lyra gasped in pain. "Scar," she managed to say, "stay with me. We need you." He looked at her. His compound eyes reflected the ghosts of his dead people. Then he strengthened his song, and the shield stabilized. "For Pack," he said. "For Kethri." 2 hours into the expanse, they found the research vessel. It was listing badly, caught in a gravity eddy. Its engines were dead, but its life support was still running. Someone was alive inside. Lyra docked the shuttle with difficulty. The gravity kept trying to pull them off course. Finally, the airlocks connected. She opened the hatch and stepped inside. The research team was huddled in the cargo bay. 18 people, their faces pale, their eyes wild. They had been trapped here for 3 days, listening to the psychic screams. The lead researcher saw Lyra first. Then he saw the Vorthi behind her. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no. You brought them here? They will kill us all. They just spent 2 hours protecting us so we could save you," Lyra said. "They are the reason you are still sane." She turned to her team. "Get these people to our shuttle. Move fast. The gravity is getting worse." It took 30 minutes to transfer everyone. 30 minutes of the Vorthi singing, their voices growing tired, the shield growing thin. The psychic noise pressed harder and harder against their minds. Finally, everyone was aboard. Lyra sealed the hatch and turned to her pilot. "Get us out of here." The shuttle pulled away from the dead ship. They flew back through the debris field, through the screaming void, through the graves of a civilization. The Vorthi never stopped singing. When they crossed back into normal space, the silence was the most beautiful thing Lyra had ever heard. Scar collapsed against the wall. His singing stopped. He was exhausted. Lyra knelt beside him. "You did it. You saved them." "Pack saves Pack?" he said weakly. Kethri asked. We answered. Behind them, the rescued researchers stared at the Vorthi with new eyes. They had entered the shuttle seeing monsters. Now they saw something else entirely. One of them, a young woman with tears on her face, spoke quietly. "Thank you," she said to Scar. "Thank you for saving us." Scar lifted his head. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he clicked his 5-beat pattern. The researcher did not understand the sound, but she understood the meaning. "We are Pack. We protect our own." The sterilization team arrived at Station Charybdis to find it empty. They searched every room. They checked every corner. They found nothing but abandoned equipment and empty cages. The broken soldiers were gone. The Vorthi were gone. Commander Lyra Vance was gone. 4 hours later, Lyra's shuttle emerged from the Veth expanse. It carried 18 rescued civilians and data that no one had ever collected before. Information about the psychic energy, maps of the debris field, proof that navigation through the expanse was possible. The footage spread across the galaxy before anyone could stop it. Security cameras from the research vessel showed everything. Vorthi protecting humans. Humans and Vorthi working together. A rescue mission that everyone said was impossible, completed by soldiers everyone said were worthless. Coalition intelligence was furious. Coalition command was confused. And the public was fascinated. Admiral Chen arrived at Station Charybdis personally. He was a tall man with cold eyes and a reputation for efficient cruelty. He had overseen the original plan to eliminate the Vorthi. Now he had to deal with the consequences of its failure. Lyra met him in the station's briefing room. The room was designed to make visitors feel small. Gray walls, hard chairs, bright lights. It did not work on her. "Commander Vance," the Admiral said, "you stole a coalition shuttle. You entered restricted space. You disobeyed direct orders regarding the termination of hostile alien assets. I conducted an unauthorized rescue mission, Lyra replied. I saved 18 coalition citizens. I recovered valuable tactical intelligence. I also proved that the Vorthi can work alongside humans as allies. The Vorthi are not allies. They are remnants of an enemy species. They were enemies because their queens forced them to fight. The queens are dead. The war is over. What I have here are refugees who lost everything and are trying to find a new purpose. The Admiral leaned forward. You have trained them to perform tricks. That does not make them allies. It makes them dangerous pets. They are not pets. They are soldiers. Better soldiers than most of the ones I have served with. They are monsters, Commander. The door to the briefing room made a loud crashing sound. Then it flew off its hinges. Scar entered first. His blade arms were raised, not to attack, but to display his full size. Behind him came the other 5 Vorthi. Their chitin armor gleamed under the harsh lights. Behind the Vorthi came every human soldier from the Broken Warrior class, Kowalski. His hands finally steady. Chen, her eyes clear and focused. Mora, standing straight without flinching at the unexpected noise. And Thresh, his prosthetic arms raised and ready, positioning himself at Lyra's side. What is this? Admiral Chen demanded. Guards. Your guards are outside, Thresh said calmly. They decided not to interfere. Lyra stood up. These soldiers followed me here, Admiral. I did not order them to come. They came because they chose to, because that is what soldiers do for a commander they trust. She gestured at the assembled group. Look at them. Really look. You see monsters and broken things. I see warriors who were thrown away by people who did not understand their value. I see survivors who were told they were worthless and refused to believe it. Scar moved to stand beside Lyra. He was twice her height and 10 times her weight. His blade arms could cut through steel, but when he looked at her, his compound eyes showed something that looked very much like devotion. Kethri, he said. His speech had improved over the past week. The word was clearer now, almost natural. Leader, pack bond, ours. He is saying I am his leader, Lyra translated. His family, his pack. He is not following me because I forced him to. He is following me because he chose to, because I was the first person who looked at him and saw something other than a monster. Admiral Chen's face had gone pale. He was surrounded by creatures that could kill him in seconds. His authority meant nothing here. His rank meant nothing. All that mattered was the bond between a commander and her soldiers. You are asking me to officially approve a unit made of damaged soldiers and enemy aliens, he said slowly, led by an officer who has already disobeyed orders twice. I am not asking, Lyra said. I am telling you what is going to happen. This unit works. We proved it in the Veth Expanse. We can go places no one else can go. We can do things no one else can do. You need us. And if I refuse, Lyra smiled. Then you can explain to the Coalition Council why you tried to kill the only unit capable of operating in the Expanse. You can explain why you ignored the footage that is currently being watched by billions of people. You can explain why you threw away an asset that could change the war. The Admiral was silent for a long moment. He looked at the Vorthi. He looked at the human soldiers. He looked at Thresh, who had worked for the Coalition for 30 years and had never once questioned orders until now. You have put me in an impossible position, he said finally. No. I have given you an opportunity. Take credit for this. Tell the Council it was your idea. Tell them you created a new type of unit that combines human adaptability with Vorthi capabilities. Be the hero. And what do you get? I get to keep my soldiers alive. I get to build something that matters. I get to prove that the broken can become whole again. Admiral Chen stood up. He straightened his uniform. He looked at Scar, who looked back without fear or anger. Humanity's greatest weapon, the Admiral said quietly. It was never our technology. It was never our numbers. It was our absolute refusal to give up on anyone. He extended his hand to Lyra. You have your unit, Commander. Do not make me regret this. Lyra shook his hand. You will not regret it, Admiral. I promise you that. As the Admiral left the room, Kowalski approached Lyra. His hands were steady. His eyes were clear. Commander, he said, I wanted to apologize. For what? Nothing, actually. He smiled. It was the first real smile she had seen from him. I just wanted to see what it felt like to say the words without meaning them. It felt good. Chen stepped up next. Status report, she said. Then she paused, and something shifted in her expression. No, that is not right. She struggled for a moment. Thank you for not giving up on us. The words were clumsy. They were clearly difficult for her to produce, but they were real. Mora approached last. She was still startled by everything, but she no longer looked terrified. I cannot feel the future, she said. But I think, for the first time in a long time, I am looking forward to it anyway. Scar clicked his 5-beat pattern. The other Vorthi echoed it. The sound filled the room like a heartbeat. Pack, Scar said. Family, together. Lyra looked around at her soldiers. The broken ones. The monsters. The forgotten ones. Together, she agreed. Always. She did not know what the future held, but she knew one thing for certain. Whatever came next, they would face it as a pack, and nothing in the galaxy could break them now. 6 months had changed everything. The Broken Warrior class had a new name now. They called themselves the Reforged. It was not a name given to them by the Coalition or assigned by some bureaucrat. They chose it themselves. Broken things could be melted down and made into something new, something stronger. Lyra stood on the bridge of their new ship. It was called the Second Chance, a name suggested by Kowalski during one of their first crew meetings. The vessel was an old carrier that had been scheduled for demolition. The Reforged had rebuilt it themselves. The corridors were wide enough for Vorthi to move freely. The lighting was dimmed to a level comfortable for both human and insect eyes. The temperature was set to a compromise that no one loved but everyone could tolerate. It was not elegant. It was not pretty. It was home. The unit had grown over the past 6 months. Word had spread through unofficial channels about the commander who treated monsters like family and broken soldiers like heroes. Veterans who had been discharged as unfit requested transfers to the Reforged. They were soldiers who could not function in normal units but still wanted to serve. The Vorthi population had grown too. Coalition forces kept finding isolated survivors from the war. Vorthi who had been hiding in asteroid fields or abandoned stations. Most were feral and dangerous. Their minds shattered by years of isolation. In the past, these survivors would have been killed on sight. Now, they were sent to Lyra. Not all of them could be saved. Some had been alone too long. Their minds had broken in ways that could not be repaired, but for those who could be reached, the Reforged offered something they had lost when the Queens died. Connection, purpose, family. Scar had become something like a second-in-command for the Vorthi. His speech had improved dramatically. He could now hold simple conversations in standard human language. More importantly, he had started teaching the other Vorthi how to rebuild their identity. We were parts of a whole, he explained to a newly arrived Vorthi who was still shaking from fear. The whole is gone, but parts can become new wholes. We make our own connections now. We choose our own bonds. The new Vorthi did not understand at first. He had spent his entire existence taking orders from the hive mind. The concept of choice was foreign to him, but Scar was patient. He had learned patience from Lyra, and slowly, the new Vorthi began to calm down. He began to listen. He began to heal. Thresh had become the ship's chief operations officer. His 4 arms, 3 of them prosthetic, were perfect for managing the complex systems that kept the Second Chance running. He had also become the unofficial mediator between human and Vorti crew members. The integration is proceeding well, he reported to Lyra one morning. Minor conflicts, but nothing serious. The humans are learning to read Vorthi body language. The Vorthi are learning human social cues. Any problems I should know about? Private Hernandez refuses to eat in the same mess hall as the Vorthi. She says they make her uncomfortable. Put her on cleaning duty for the Vorthi quarters. For 1 week. Thresh looked surprised. That seems harsh, Commander. It is not punishment. It is exposure therapy. She is afraid because she does not know them. Once she spends time around them, sees how they live, watches them interact with each other, she will understand they are just people. Different shaped people, but still people. A week later, Private Hernandez requested permanent assignment to the Vorthi integration team. She said she had never felt more welcome anywhere in her life. The new mission briefing came through on a Tuesday morning. A colony called New Harmony had gone silent 3 days ago. It was located on the edge of Coalition space, far from any support. Initial reconnaissance had detected movement on the surface, but no one was responding to communications. The intelligence report suggested swarm activity. Lyra called a briefing in the ship's main conference room. Humans and Vorthi filled the space, standing or sitting depending on their preference. The room was designed so everyone could see the central display screen. The swarm, Lyra began, is a splinter faction of the old Vorthi hive mind. When the queens died, some Vorthi did not just lose their connection, they went wrong. The emptiness in their heads was filled with something else. Hunger. Rage. A need to consume rather than connect. She brought up images on the screen. They showed Vorthi that looked wrong. Their chitin was twisted. Their eyes burned with a sick yellow light. Their blade arms were covered in blood. They attack colonies and try to absorb the inhabitants. Not physically, psychically. They are trying to rebuild a hive mind by force. Everyone they capture becomes part of their swarm. Everyone they cannot capture, they kill. The room was silent. Several of the Vorthi made sounds of distress. This was their nightmare. This was what they could have become if they had not found a different path. Scar stepped forward. Can they be saved? I do not know, Lyra admitted. They have been broken in a different way than you were. They did not choose to lose their queens, but they also did not choose to become monsters. They were made that way by trauma and isolation. She looked around the room. Our mission is to rescue the colonists, but I want to try something else too. I want to try to reach the swarm, to show them there is another way. And if they cannot be reached, Thresh asked, then we do what we have to do. But we try first. We always try first. The second chance dropped out of hyperspace above New Harmony 2 days later. The colony below was dark. No lights. No communications. But there was movement. Thousands of figures crawling through the streets. Lyra led the ground team personally. 20 humans and 10 Vorthi descended to the surface in heavy shuttles. They landed in the colony's central square, weapons ready. The swarm was waiting for them. They emerged from buildings, from underground passages, from shadows. Hundreds of twisted Vorthi, their yellow eyes gleaming with hunger. They moved in perfect synchronization, a mockery of the hive mind they had once belonged to. The largest one stepped forward. It was even bigger than Scar, its body covered in mutations and extra limbs. When it spoke, its voice sounded like many voices at once. New meat, it said. New minds. Join us. Become whole. Lyra stepped forward. You are not whole. You are a wound pretending to be healed. What you have is not connection. It is infection. The swarm leader hissed. We are what we were made to be. We are what survival requires. You cannot understand. You have never been alone in the silence. You are wrong. Scar moved to stand beside Lyra. I have been in the silence. I have felt the emptiness where the queens used to be. I know the pain you carry. The swarm paused. Hundreds of yellow eyes focused on Scar. But I found another way, Scar continued. Not by force, not by consumption, by choice, by trust, by building new bonds with those who accepted me. He gestured at Lyra, at the human soldiers, at the other Vorthi. These are my pack. They are not part of me. They are beside me. And that is better. That is stronger. That is what real connection feels like. The swarm leader was silent for a long moment. Then it made a sound that might have been laughter, pretty words. But words do not fill the void. It raised its blade arms. The other swarm members surged forward. The battle was brutal. The Reforged fought back to back, human and Vorthi together. They protected each other. They covered each other's weaknesses. They moved like a single organism, but one made of trust rather than force. Lyra found herself surrounded at one point. 3 swarm members closed in on her, their blades raised. She raised her weapon, knowing she could not stop all of them. Then Scar was there. He crashed into the attackers, his massive body shielding her. His blade arms flashed, driving them back. Kethri must live, he growled. Pack protects pack. The battle turned slowly. The swarm had numbers, but the Reforged had something they did not. Unity that came from love rather than hunger. Coordination that came from trust rather than control. When it was over, the swarm leader lay defeated. Not dead, but broken. Its yellow eyes flickered as it looked up at Lyra. "You will regret not killing me," it whispered. "Maybe," Lyra said. "But I have learned something about broken things. Sometimes they can be fixed, and I refuse to give up on anyone until I am sure they cannot be saved." She turned to her medics. "Take it aboard the ship. Full containment protocols. We are going to try to help it." The colonists were found hiding in underground shelters. All of them had survived. They emerged into the sunlight and saw Vorthi standing among their rescuers. A small girl approached Scar. She was barely tall enough to reach his knee. She looked up at his scarred face without fear. "Are you a monster?" she asked. Scar lowered himself until he was closer to her height. "I was," he said. "Now I am something else." "What are you now?" He thought about it. Then he clicked his 5-beat pattern. "Family," he said. "I am family." The girl smiled. She reached out and touched his armored hand. "I like family." Lyra watched them and felt something warm in her chest. This was what they had built. This was what the Reforged were about. Not just fighting, not just surviving. Healing, connecting, finding light in the darkness. The galaxy had sent her to a broken warrior class and expected her to fail. Instead, she had built a family. And that family was changing the galaxy. One mission at a time. "Commander," Thresh said, approaching her. "We have received a new mission briefing. Another colony needs help." Lyra smiled. "Then let us go help them." She looked at her soldiers. Human and Vorthi, broken and healed. Different in every way that did not matter. United in every way that did. "That is what we do," she said. "We are the Reforged. And we never give up on anyone." The second chance lifted off into the stars. And somewhere in the galaxy, another group of lost souls waited for the family that was coming.